Hello all. We're very excited to be here in this cello chat today, sharing with you, with all of you, wherever you are, some ideas about the cello, and especially we're very excited to present a new resource that will be available through Cello Velo, which is the Sphinx catalog of Latin American cello works. It was released just yesterday on the Cello Velo website. We will speak more about that catalog in a second. But before, I want to tell you, of course, my name, Horacio Contreras. I teach at Lawrence University and the Music Institute of Chicago. And I am delighted to thank, first of all, Mr. Paul Katz and the Cello Velo team that has welcomed us to their family. We're very excited and honored to be a part of such a distinguished family, of course. And I also want to thank very especially to Afa and Aaron Dworkin and the Sphinx organization. They were our first partners for the catalog, this database that we will describe in some minutes. For those that don't know, because I know this is international, the Sphinx organization is one of the largest and more important organizations that enhance diversity in classical music in the United States. So we teamed with them as well in October, and you can also access the catalog in their website. I invite you to check their website as well. You know, we are delighted to, we will explain the catalog, and of course we will be delighted to share all things related to cello with you all.
Hi everybody, I am Germán Marcano. I'm a Venezuelan cellist. Both Horacio and I, we're thrilled about this presentation of the catalog, and it has been, this last week has been full of joy for us. But also, it's been kind of sad because we lost two of the great cellists this week. Lynn Harrell, the great American cellist, and Martin Lovett, cellist of the Amadeus Quartet. Both were great influence in my career. I had the privilege to work with them closely in various opportunities, and I really treasure all their teaching and them as human beings. Eternal life for their souls. I like to, coming back to the catalog, I like to just address this catalog has been in the making for about 20 years. Yes, 20 years. It started as a list at the back of a project in my doctoral, when I was doing my doctoral at the University of Wisconsin in 2000. Then it became my doctoral dissertation at UW-Madison. And in 2004, it became a book published by the late Venezuelan music publisher, Fundación Vicente Emilio Sojo. Gracias, Horacio. And an online version of the catalog became a necessity, because otherwise it would have been kind of forgotten, you know, in library shelves and completely out of date. So in 2017, my good friend Horacio proposed a partnership between us to make this project possible. The general support of our sponsor has been, you know, very essential to this realization of this project, and we are really thankful for them to make this dream come true. Over the elaboration of this catalog, there have been many collaborations from cellists and composers around the world. And among many of them, we would like to acknowledge the work that has passed to us by Hugo Pilger from Brazil, by Cristina Ramirez from Ecuador, Daigoro Cerón from Chile, Pablo Majave Beglia from Chile, Ana Ruth Bermudez from Cuba, Karina Volli from Argentina, and Cecilia Palma from Venezuela.
Cecilia Palma, who is my very good friend. If she's looking, hi Cecilia, how are you? So, you know, we don't want to make you wait more, so I will start speaking about the catalog, and I will do so while I share my screen with you so that you know how to find it, how to browse it and some data around what it is. So I'll go ahead and share the screen. So here you can see, of course, the Cello Velo website. You can see here, and then you will find the catalog on the tab of Cello Resources. It will be the first tab under Cello Resources there. So I'll click there, and there you have the catalog. So I'll just like magnify this a little bit so that it's better. You know, at the beginning you have a little bit of background of what it is and some explanations about how to search it. We will just do it in a second. You will search some things. You know, things that are good to say about this is that the catalog has currently more than 2,200 works and that the criteria that made the collection a comprehensive but still manageable thing are based on instrumentation. So the catalog is a compilation of works by Latin American composers, and the works have to be for cello solo, for cello as a soloist, with orchestra, with another ensemble, or sharing the concerto, like Brahms double or Beethoven triple, or Leo Brouwer's triple, for example. He has a triple concerto. And then in cello choir as well, in cello ensembles, and in duo with another instrument. We will do some searches so that you guys get familiar with it and you can use it with ease. Another thing that is good to say is that we will be updating this resource continuously. Actually, the last update was just today in the morning. We were reviewing the catalog and we found some like minor inconsistencies, and we fixed them and updated it. And actually, after I updated, I realized that there's another piece. So Germán will speak more about how we team with other people to update this catalog. So let's take a look at this. So here's the actual catalog. Here you have the information organized by categories that are related to the composer and the work. So you have here the name of the composer, under composer, with the dates of birth and death in case the composer is not a living composer. You have the country of origin or citizenship, the gender, of course, which is something very important. So if you want to, you know, like look for a female composer, you can just click there and you see the gender of the composer. Again, you see that female there. The name of the composition, the date of the composition, whenever we have that piece of information. Sometimes we don't, so and sometimes you won't find some information that we don't have. The duration of the work and the instrumentation, and lately the editions. So it's important at this point to note that the catalog doesn't contain actual scores, but it will tell you information that is useful to find the score, and in some cases, it will tell you where to actually find it. For example, in this case, it prompts you to the website, this website that I think has the score. So those are the categories, and now, Germán, why don't you come and throw me some words to make some searches here and demonstrate the searches.
Great. Let's do some search. Let's start from the middle of the world. Let's start from Ecuador. See how many works have been written by for cello by composers from Ecuador.
There you are. So you have, it shows all of these composers from Ecuador. So at the end of this page, you have, you know, like you can browse different pages because there are many results. something that is important to know is that the names don't follow any or the countries. The catalog doesn't follow a strict alphabetical order. It doesn't, because we have to update by adding works into the row to all of the works we added below. So in case you are looking for a composer and you see that at the beginning it seems to sort of be in alphabetical order, you have to keep scrolling down and go to the end of all of the pages to make sure that your search is very thorough, and you will likely find it somewhere else if you don't see it where you think it will be. Why don't you send me another words? So
yes, well, one of the wonderful things about this search is that we can use both as two words for a search, like say female and Venezuela.
Oh, wait, wrong spelling.
Of your own country.
Yeah. Venezuela, there you are. Okay, so here you see all of these wonderful female composers from Venezuela. I actually know personally most of them, and I'm sure Germán knows them too, so it's very cool to see their names here. Why don't you say something else, Germán?
Say, if you're looking for a cello solo piece to include in a recital that is about 10 minutes long.
So you write cello solo 10 minutes, there you are. So if you write cello solo 10 only, it will show all the results that have the 10 on the search. If you use this sign here, then it will tell you the ones that contain the minutes. I have to say that there's some inconsistency across computers with the sign, the apostrophe that you use for minutes. So it's good to try both with and without, because I have tried with my phone and the character is different from the one that it's, even though they are all Mac, it's just a different character. Yeah. Why don't you throw another one, Germán?
Let's try searching the work of a kind of well-known contemporary composer like Osvaldo Golijov.
Okay, Golijov, phone music. There you are. You see here Golijov and all of the phone works that he has, right? He has this Marielle, is so beautiful. All of the things. And actually, you can see here something that is very interesting, because if I click here, you will be prompted to a website where you can actually buy the score, and they recommend your recording as well. So this in this case is the Boosie and Hawks website that is the one that is his editor for this piece. Any other search, Germán?
Well, I think it will be important to mention something about the spelling of, because, you know, in Spanish, we have accents, and in English, and other language don't have. So can you just show how you can search music by, say, Tania León, the Cuban composer?
There you are, Tania León. You see the León here? So let's try two spellings. So you see that you have these small accents here. We Spanish-speaking people are used to this, but English-speaking people are not, on other languages. And the Portuguese has even other signs. So I will look without the accent so that you guys look what happens. Tania León. If I just type León without the accent, then you don't have any results. So you want to research the names of the composer so that you can write it correctly. Of course, you know, this is a work of two people. So there are still some like signs that we need to review. And so I recommend that you try, you know, with and without the signs to be sure that you will get results.
And if anything, you can always write to us, if there is corrections to do, and we are open to include not only corrections, but any other suggestion that people have about any Latin American works that are unknown. It would be nice, some people are married to other instrumentalists, like, I don't know, harpists or clarinetists. So it would be nice to see when those people are going to play together, that there are pieces in Latin America that say for cello and clarinet.
Okay, cello and clarinet. So let's type here clarinet. And look at that, you have all of these works. So there's this concerto, there's, all of these duos. There's another concerto here. Bass clarinet concert. I imagine that this would be something that is an arrangement. So there you are. You have all of these works that include the combination of cello and clarinet.
Like that, you can include any other instrument, and you will show different results also. So I just seen in the table there that there are some electronics also. That's like a contemporary thing to do. So can you show us how we catalog that how you show everybody how we catalog that as electronic instruments and tapes and stuff like that?
Sure. So electronic. So electronic has different names. Some people have this word electronic sounds, electronics, electronic media. And some people, older people, like back in the 60s, they used to use tape. So if you type tape, you will find also like music that is for cello and pre-recorded music or sounds, basically. So electronics, and tape, both the three works. So, yeah. Are we good?
Yes, well, I think you're doing really well, Horacio. There is a project that we've been carrying on parallel to this one. It's like to make small biographies of composers that are lesser known, and that also are shown in the catalog. Let's say, can we look for this Brazilian composer, Elsa Cameo de Cordovil? Elsa without the H.
Here you are, Elsa Cameo de Cordovil.
Yes.
If you click on this name, you will be prompted to the site of Sphinx that hosts these personal websites for composers, where you can find a bio, their works for cello, and some external resources. So you can have that. As Herman said, that's like a work in progress. So I think that in the Sphinx catalog, if you saw the letters are of a different color. If you see this letter, Cordovil, Elsa Cameo, and then you see the letters of the first entry, these are a little bit lighter. So you will be able to see that by the color of the word. Yeah.
That's great. Well, after that, we'll take some questions from people. But before we kind of finish the presentation, I would like to say that, as Horacio has pointed out, this is a document that is being updated. We've been working really hard the last 2 years to make the update that was kind of left behind from the original book, which was from 2004. So we really have to work really hard on this, and we are willing to keep on doing it in order to have this catalog as up to date as possible. One of the other projects that are coming along and that you probably have seen already is that we are producing small videos of cellists and composers from Latin America, and they are quite interesting because they don't talk mainly about their way they played around the world or whatever, but about their collaboration with composers and about what they think about the catalog and that's the contribution to the Latin American music and that. So I'm sure most of you have seen our first video with Santiago Cañón, which was really wonderful and really successful, lots of views. We had another video with Ricardo Lawrence, the Venezuelan composer, who's a very good friend of us too, actually. So, you know, that was something that I felt almost like he was kind of part of this catalog thing because, you know, we know him for such a long time and we have collaborated with him in so many works. And so there's another video that shows some of the, well, what the catalog is about. And it's going to become, there are some other organized in line that will be coming in the next few months. So this kind of rounds up our contribution to the Latin American cello repertoire, and it will be, you know, still nurtured by your comments and your collaborations, and any information that we can have in order to keep searching and make this document a really good source of reference for Latin American music all over the world.
Great. So I think that we can start with the questions. We have already a couple of questions here. If you want, I can start, and then you can answer the other one that is about the process. That we can all actually talk about that, both of us. But I think I can take the one about the repertoire in our own practice and recitals. I think we could comment, both of us, but I could start.
Sure.
You know, actually, I have to say that back in 2006, when I was living in Venezuela, when I came back from Spain, when I was studying with Luis Claret, and I will, you know, take advantage of mentioning his name to thank him because he also helped us to connect with CelloVelo. Thank you, Luis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luis. It's been wonderful.
I remember at that point I did a recital of all Venezuelan solo pieces where I played Paul de Seine, a piece by Paul de Seine, a piece by my friend Simón Rodriguez, a piece by Pedro Simón Rincón, a composer from Mérida, and I think that was it, perhaps. I think I played the Puneña, the Ginastera. It was a loaded recital. But basically, I made the commitment of including at least one Latin American piece in every single recital I would play from then on. And I have been playing recitals for almost 15 years after that, and in every single one, I have included one Latin American piece. So to answer that question, I personally always am studying the repertoire from Latin America. I'm always in the search, trying to compile the works, to have access to know where are the scores, to meet composers and work together with them. I recently premiered a work that was composed for me and my friend Ana Maria Otamendi by Reinaldo Moya, who is a wonderful Venezuelan American composer. And I particularly enjoy playing Latin American music every single time I can.
Great. I was going to say that back in the 80s, in 1980s, I had the opportunity to participate in a Latin American music festival. And I gave my complete recital of Latin American music. And in that program, I premiered two works. One of them was written in the 50s and hadn't been played yet. And the composer was there, which was Modesta Bor's Suite for Cello and Piano. The other one was Juan Bautista Plaza, Diferencias, and Elegía. And this was written back in the 30s and 40s, and nobody had played it. So it was like a really good renaissance of this music, just getting to know people, music that are part of our culture, and from then on, they have been. I edited those works in Venezuela, and they are available in an edition. After that, I kind of started to think of the importance of including Latin American music in most of my recitals. So when I was doing my DMA, I included, I had to do 6 recitals, and in all of them there was a Latin American piece, from Pampiana to Leo Brauer Cello Suite, to Paul Descent's cello quartets, to now I escaped it on my mind. But it was kind of the moment I connect more with the Latin American music. Actually, it coincides with the catalog. And after that, I've been continuing doing the same. I had a concerto written for me by the Puerto Rican Carlos Alberto Vázquez, and we gave it to the premiere in Puerto Rico and also in Venezuela. And in my last year, recently, in the last 10 years, I've been doing a search on folk Venezuelan music, and that has been one of my very interesting line that I've been approaching, recently. It's so good to collaborate with folk musicians, and they have the way of thinking completely different to what we have. And that actually has kind of motivate me to write pieces for cello solo based on Venezuelan music. So that's around my experience.
Excellent. So there are some questions related to general technique, so perhaps we can answer one of those. So there's one that I feel very interesting for me. What does a typical practice session for you look like? 20 minutes scales, etudes, or do you go straight to concert pieces? So I think this is a very good question. I think that for me, I like to develop what I call a warm-up routine, but it's not actually, like after you play like for 15 minutes, you're actually warmed up. But I do, I'll just show a little bit of what I do. I do some open strings. I do some open strings just to take contact with the cello at the beginning. I match that with breathing in and out every certain amount of beats, so that I work on I'm controlling my breath. Then I do some shifting exercises, just with and without vibrato and combinations, and little by little speed up my left hand. Then I go on in a very thorough and longer double stop routine with exercises like this that I like writing exercises. So I write some of my own exercises. Just finger combinations, and then I do some third, 6 octaves, unisons, tenths, and then I finish with some vibrato. And I actually like to play etudes and every day, and I have been lately playing some etudes by the teacher of Galamian, the teacher of Carl Flesch, Eugene Sauzet, that I transcribed and adapted myself for cello. Those etudes every etude has a different focus in terms of intervals, and I play one of them, and they keep me in shape. After that, I feel that I'm ready to play a wide amount of repertoire in an easier way. So my goal is to have my technique in shape, so that I go in an easier way to play whatever I need to play. You want to take another question, Germán?
Sure. Julian Bennett is asking about the process of compiling and creating the Sphinx database. Well, as I said before, this started 20 years ago. And I just started, casually looking into libraries, and then gradually getting to know where are the places where Latin American music is more. I mean, they have the biggest stock in the world, which happens to be in Indiana. That's a really good library. I got a lot of information from there. Then we did really good work on investigation on the big encyclopedia of music, the New Growth and the Spanish and Latin American the kind of dictionary, which is kind of like the New Growth of Spain and Latin America. There are archives in the Organization of American States that are worthwhile looking. And recently, it's kind of easier than when I started, because you can go into the web pages of composers, and you can tell, it actually has links to YouTube, and it sometimes gives you the music, there to download. So it's this much easier now than when I started, but it still is something, fascinating and worthwhile. I think, we'll keep doing it this way. And sometimes, I will go to visit some Latin American country, and we ask somebody, and somebody knows about their cello repertoire a lot. So there, I get my computer or my notebook and start compiling information. So it's a kind of process which is, I believe, is part of Horacio and I, for life, and it will probably be something that it's gonna be with us all the time.
Will. Okay, so there are several questions about technique. I'll take one of those. So I have here one about breathing, and I think that connects with what I was describing before about my warm-ups. I do think that breathing, controlling your breath is very important for a relaxed and controlled cello playing. And I do have several exercises for that. One, of course, you want to start, I think, by controlling the speed of your breath. So I think that you could start just putting a metronome on 60, which is around more or less, and then you will breathe, exhale every 4 beats, but continuously. It's not that you will exhale and then you will be left without air for 3 beats. You have to continuously, gradually exhale and inhale every 4 beats, or whatever it's more comfortable for you. Some people have a larger capacity, some people have less. So you want to find out what is more comfortable for you and do it like that. And then I match that with bow strokes. One of the things that happens is that many times our breathing is connected to some motion that movements that we do. Sometimes our breathing is connected to the change of direction of the bow. So in those cases, people will give a faster breath, take air or exhale very fast when they change the bow or when they cross strings, right? And sometimes they are connected to our shifting. So sometimes when you shift, then you inhale very fastly when you're shifting, or sometimes you will just hold your breath and don't breathe. So I have these exercises where I play continuous bow strokes, longer and longer. I start with 8 beats, a quarter equals 60, then I add 4 and 4. I get up to 24, 28, so something like that. 24 is my daily thing. And then I started doing actually uneven bow strokes, but I keep breathing every 4 beats. So I untie the bow stroke from the breathing. So I go I'll exhale, 2, 3, 4, and then inhale 1, 2, 3, keep inhaling, and now I start exhaling, and so forth. So that will place my breathing in a different place of the bow. Another thing that I do is I start doing shifting plus breathing. So I'll continuously breathe through the shift. achieve, and then little by little, I will, those exercises that I just described, the ones that have acceleration, little by little, I will match with breathing. So that way I will learn how to breathe while playing and don't have like, don't hold my breath or like have a very regular and calm and controlled breathing while I'm moving my fingers and my bow. Yeah. So you want to take another question, Germán?
Yeah, there are some other questions about the catalog I'd like to address. It's on how to face the Latin American work from scratch or something like that. Well, it is, if you look at the catalog, that there are many tendencies, it's the tendency, the more academic and kind of more European kind of tendency. There is a tendency which is completely popular. There is a tendency that is kind of in a mix of the two, nationalistic, but it's kind of more into, mixing the new and the old. We can see Campiana, for example, it's a great example of that. Campiana is a great 20th century work, but it's based on rhythms of Argentina. So in the case of Campiana or Puneña or some of the works by Ginastera, it is really important to make and listen to what the real folk music sounds like. There are many composers like that, like music of Paul de Sen, Venezuelan composer. If you listen to the tambores from Venezuela, then some of his textures are very much like folk music from Venezuela. There are other composers which are kind of going into different like contemporary techniques and all that, and that would be something very different. Their music is not based on that. You have to kind of rely more on listening to authors that have the same kind of style, and analyze the music to see what elements you think are important. If there is a certain line that has to be more emphasized than another, if there's an accompaniment or something like that. So it's a challenge, and that challenge lasts a few years until you find a solution to that you are satisfied. It is like a path that you start and until you are satisfied with it. So it's nothing kind of what I can give you an advice is that you listen to the music that is around the same style as the composer, and try to relate and try always to see what your training as a classical musician gives you to understand the music. For example, if you have a melody, then play as a melody with all the elements, with the vibrato and the phrasing and all that. Sometimes we listen to contemporary music that just is kind of doesn't make much sense, and we blame the music, but sometimes the performer could be blamed for that too. So I think good classical training, good Bach playing, good Casado playing, good Kodai playing, good Beethoven playing gives you a really nice kind of support for ideas to understand music better. That's more or less what I can recommend.
Yeah, I can add briefly that I feel that it's actually very positive to get in touch, get contact with pieces that you discover through your own playing and your own studying, because that way you can develop your own personality, and you will kind of synthesize what Germán was saying, all of the knowledge that you have into a new environment that will require your own creativity, because you won't have references. So I feel that that's one of the best things I would say of playing pieces that are not often played, because you will have all the freedom, but you will have also all the responsibility to have the piece be known as in all its full value. But that's what I would say. So there's here a question that I think I can answer rather quickly, even though it's a complicated issue, and this is where can I find scores for cello that were made by Latin American composers? So that's a question that is actually, it has many answers. So it's like, because there's not a single source. I cannot tell you, okay, so you will find the works in this library, or you will find them in this, using this portal, or you will find them going to this editorial house or whatever. The answer is compound. The answer is that you need to, of course, you can use the information that is in the catalog to see if you can, one, reach the composer, if it is a living composer. I recently had bought a piece from Miguel del Águila that I needed a 4-minute piece for 4 cellos, and I bought the piece from him. I wrote him. He was very nice and sent me the piece the day after, I think it's called. And great piece. 2, you can go to libraries. There are wonderful libraries in the United States. There's the library of the Latin American Music Center in Indiana University. There's the library of the University of Texas in Austin. I think there are universities that own the music, the scores of one composer. For example, I think that the University of Miami owns the scores of Aldemaro Romero, who is
right. Absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah, a Venezuelan composer. So you have the libraries, and then you have also the editorial houses, and some of them are like devoted to Latin American pieces. I can name Filarmónica with a K, Music Publishing, Cayambis Music Press with C and Y, Cayambis, Lafi Publishers, which is LAFI Publishers, that has the music of Efraín Amaya. Ponteio Publishing is from Brazil, and so forth. Then also you have like some of the major editorial houses that carry some composers from Latin America, like Max Eschig carries Villalobos, Bussi and Hawks carries Ginastera, so you can go there. And then you have the editorial houses that are in Latin America, like for example, in Mexico and Argentina, there's a great editorial activity. So you can go to Ediciones Mexicanas de Música. It's great. The Universidad Autónoma Nacional from Mexico is doing great with Manuel Ponce's works, for example. There's an editorial house in Argentina that is called Barri Editorial, in Brazil also. So it's a matter of asking. I think that you can ask us, you can email us, or like Facebook message or whatever, and we can kind of give you ideas if you're interested in one or another work and you cannot find the website of the composer or whatever, you can email us certainly, and we will be very happy to help you.
Yeah, it has been our purpose to place all that in the catalog. So, I mean, your first search will be in the catalog, and from then on. And if you find any difficulty, we'll be glad to assist you in whatever issue that you are requiring. Before I take another question, I would like to say hi to some people that have been watching us from France: Karen Schultz, Luis Parra, Jose Elizondo, Roy Garcia, Susana Parra. You probably have some more, Horacio, to address.
Yeah.
There is an interesting question here. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine.
Okay. There is an interesting question here about if we accept compositions from any Latin American composer, or do they go some kind of evaluation? We don't do any evaluation. I mean, we are performers, and if I don't like the music, that doesn't take the merit to be in the catalog. So any kind of music can be there. The performers that take that, that offer to perform it, will be the judge if that music is good or is not so good, or you know, I don't like it. You know, with a matter of taste, it's always an issue that, you know, we should always leave it to the player who is doing it. Sometimes we've been, you know, you want judges pieces that when you hear it in performance played by other people, you say, wow, this piece is so good, I just didn't understand it or whatever. So we don't really, the pieces don't go through a process of evaluation, don't worry. We are not composers. All we intend is just to put in a document all the possible alternatives there are to perform cello music from Latin America.
Great. So there's a question here that I think that it is positive to discuss. I think this is a discussion more than an answer. And that's, have you presented this project in Europe or Asia? Do you think it would be appealing for other cultures or parts of the world besides the American continent? So I feel that, thank you for that question. I think that, you know, one of the main things I would say that is happening right now with classical music in general is that, and in the culture, I would say in the development of culture as such, is that there are conjoined efforts. There are joint efforts to diversify the offering of music venues or museums, you know, like cinemas, even TV shows. For example, if you go to Netflix, before, you know, when I was a child, I just watched the TV, and all I could watch were, you know, some American shows and here and there, Venezuelan things and some Mexican things, but I didn't have a lot of offering. But right now I go on Netflix and I can watch these amazing shows from Poland, from Asia, from Austria, from Africa, you know, from everywhere. And they are doing so well. They are so interesting. And I'm so happy that I can have that diverse offering through Netflix. And it's not telling that this or that is better. It's just like having access to things, expressive forms of cultures that see things differently is so interesting for everybody. And I feel that that's also true for classical music. And I feel that there's an effort for classical music presenters and organizations to diversify their offering. And for example, a few months ago, I was speaking with Argentinian composer Esteban Bensekri, a very well-known composer, and he was telling me that about his concerto that was commissioned and premiered by Gauthier Capuçon, who is from France. So I really think that this resource is very appealing, and it really makes a difference in general. You can use it wherever you are. And also there are some resources that are kind of like this in Europe. For example, the IRCAM, the Ensemble Intercontemporain in France, has this amazing online catalog, I think, or like there's a site where you can research composers by country, by, I don't know if by gender, but it's not only for cello. It's like and the database is a little bit smaller, and it's mostly like modern pieces, but they do have that too. So I feel that yes, we are joining our efforts with a trend, and I do feel that this is a contribution that will help in that direction.
That's right, you know, and I want to compliment saying that I've been, some people have wrote me from Australia, from Scandinavia, interested in music. And some time ago, I actually, you know, they asked me if I had some Latin American music to mail to them, and I did mail. So there is interest. What is what is lacking is that we play, because we tend to be, our training as a performers are more towards the European American classical music. So Latin American music is kind of, if you want to play it. And I must say that in the process of doing this catalog, I have come across to some really fantastic pieces, should really be played. I can name something like well, starting with the Grand Tango was written for Rostropovich. So it's not just something that came out by a composer in Argentina. It was dedicated and Rostropovich recorded it. What Horacio said now about Esteban Bensecri, Capuchon, the Leo Brouwer's piece. Leo Brouwer himself told me that Anna Bismarck played the piece. So we are talking about repertoire, which is very important, but that needs that we as Latin Americans start promoting it so other people play it. And if the other people are curious about it, welcome to explore it. There are, as I said, there are wonderful pieces. The concertos by the Goloyov with Yo-Yo Ma premiere a couple of years back. There are the works by Villalobos, which were dedicated to Aldo Parisot, so major figure in the cello and in the United States. There are works like Espejos en la Arena for cello and orchestra, which was commissioned by Carlos Prieto. Wonderful music. There is a concerto by Orrego Salas, by Carlos Chavez. There is even a concerto by Reynaldo Hahn, which was a Venezuelan composer who lived in France most of his life in the 19th century, so 19th to 20th century. So, the repertoire is actually really good, and it really deserves that we start playing it. And I'm not against playing the classical. I love the classical, but that what Horacio and I started a few years ago, that to include Latin American pieces, to include new pieces by Latin American composers, is something that is going to give life to this catalog. Otherwise, it would become just a reference like any dictionary. So I ask everybody, especially the Latin American players, to start searching for new works, and that would also be a way of kind of making a difference. Everybody plays the classical repertoire, but very few people play these pieces which are as good or better.
Great. So we have like 8 minutes left, so perhaps we can answer some questions that can be answered more briefly so that we touch more issues. So there's a very simple question here from Aristides Rivas, who I don't know, but I want to know. I want to meet you, Aristides.
Hi, Aristides. I don't know you either, but I know you.
So, does the catalog feature compositions and or arrangements for cello ensembles? Yes. So you can just go and type in the number of cellos that you need, like 4 cellos, but you type in the number, not the word, and you will see the results of works for cello ensembles. That's a very short and simple answer. I don't know if you want to add anything, but
you can also type cellos, with an S, and it will show a lot of results also.
Yeah, I have this question briefly about technique. I am a 56-year-old that has been taking lessons for only a year. Do you have any suggestions to help my right hand not be so tense and eventually painful? I would say that's a search that lasts a life. I think that we're all searching for less tension in the right hand. So I think that you should not feel alone in that field, because we are all in that boat. We really work every single day to have that right hand be relaxed. One thing that I can suggest about the pain is that you take breaks. that you don't spend like 30 minutes playing. You do like 10 minutes and then you take a break. And then you could find some stretches online, stretches for your hand, for your arms, so that you protect your tendons and your muscles. And then you take breaks, and that way it will hopefully help with your pain. Germán, you want to take any other question?
Yeah, there was a question about vibrato that maybe I can give you some advice. I think the best thing about vibrato, first thing is not to get too you get anxious about it, because vibrato is a movement that is completely unnatural. I mean, nobody is kind of doing vibrato all the time. So we really have to build it gradually. And in order to do that, we need to start from very slow. What I usually recommend, apart from, sort of very relaxed thumb and very a little higher your elbow in order to have a nice movement, just to put your metronome, say 60 or something like that, and do the biggest possible amplitude. And then after you feel comfortable, move it into 8 notes or into make quarter notes, and then triplets, and as soon as you feel that you're getting tense with the arm, just stop and start over again. After that, I do an exercise which I think is very nice. It's very good. That is start slow and suddenly speeding it up and then slow again. So you can feel exactly where the tension is, and when you slow down, you feel relaxed again. Vibrato is something. It's like subjects in the cello technique. It's like just like the spiccato and the sourillé. They are kind of subject like math 1, math 2, math 3 that have to be addressed with very carefully and with a lot of patience, because they take time. But I assure you that it's like, as we say, it's like riding a bike. Once you get it, you have it forever, and it will keep improving in amplitude, in speed, in color. You can do it with your hand, with your whole arm, etc. So be really, don't be anxious about it. It will come.
Yeah, great. So there's a question here about what are some of your favorite things about playing Latin American cello music that you don't get a chance to do when you play music from other genres? I would imagine that's like from other places, because like Latin America is like it's a geographical concept, right? So, I wouldn't say that I can point out to something that I say, I feel this when I play music from Latin America in general. I can tell you, I love this piece because I have a memory that is linked to this, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a Latin American piece. For example, I love the Chopin Sonata because I heard it before. The first time I heard it was Luis Claret's playing in his CD. And then I studied with him, and then I actually learned it with him, and I love his recording. So every time I play Chopin, it's beautiful because it brings that memory. I think it's more connected to the piece in particular. And if I would say that there is something that perhaps many Latin American works have that I enjoy, is that that is shared with other music, is that I really like to play music that is heard for the first time by most of the members of the audience. I really like that. I really like to take to be a channel for the audience to discover something that they don't know. And with many Latin American works, that is the case. So that's something I enjoy. So I feel we have 1 minute left. Germán, you want to take another one?
I like just to add to what you said, that my own experience playing with folk musicians, it just changed the whole way I look at performance, because folk musicians tend to be really spontaneous. And we classical tend to be really prepared. And I have learned a lot by playing with folk musicians, and that has actually helped me going into the stage to do traditional music. I think of what the folk musicians do, relax, very kind of like going to a party or something. Of course, I mean, if you're going to play D minor suite or something, you have a different thing on your head. But the spontaneity that these people have is really, sometimes we lose it so much because thinking of the technique, and this is a tune and my bow and my posture. And, that spontaneity is always important to have when we perform.
Okay, so it's 8. There's a question from Juan Sebastián Delgado. I think that we were in touch with him from Argentina, right? He sent us some words, I believe. Wasn't he? Yeah, I think he sent us some work. Juan Sebastián, thank you for asking that question. I want to speak with you about the platform that you're mentioning. So let's speak. Please email me and let's speak about the Babel Score platform and how can we connect it. So I feel that we are already at 8 p.m. and we're very
9 p.m. here.
Oh yeah, 8 p.m. Central, Wisconsin time. So
yes.
I am very grateful again. I know Germán is too, and to Paul Katz and Cello Velo, and we are excited, very, very excited to see how our catalog helps people to connect. That's our main goal, to help people connecting around the Latin American repertoire, the idea of Latin America, and our beloved instrument, the cello. Thank you so much.
That's great. I met this Mr. Paul Katz for the first time this week, and I was amazed of the interest on this music. So that makes us feel really that our work has a special place in cello velo and in the cello literature as such. So thank you very much for attending this, and I hope this tool is useful to you all.